Thank you so much, Joe, for spending some time with me today. You're one of those stories that I like to tell on the podcast because, number one, I don't get a lot of access to guys that have been inside JCCC. It's a big deal to go there and see them. So you spent a lot of time there, and now you are released and you're learning to function really in society in a way that you haven't done for over 3 decades. And
Yes.
that's a big change for you. So tell me how that has been. You were um, in the prison for, I think it was 34 years.
34 years.
Yeah,
I got
tell me
locked up
about
when I
that.
was 16. Got incarcerated when I was 16, and it was a lot of the stuff with technology and just catching up in general. When got locked up, I didn't even know how to do laundry. So now I'm trying to get all that and do all of that. And when we digital microwaves came into the prison, I had to actually read a book on how to work a microwave, and just those things has progressed over time. And then coming back out to society, had to learn to drive. I had taken driver's ed, but I never actually had a driver's license. So that was one of the first things that I did. Got a learner's permit and just a lot of different things. One of the main things that's really helped me was I got a dog. And she's been my rock. I've been around the dog since 2010. So they just, the emotional support that they give is I can kind of empathize with how important dogs are to people and how they help emotionally with the dogs. Uh, Little
So
cookies helped me a lot.
you're a guy who has trained, I'm just guessing, dozens of dogs.
54.
Yeah. So when you got out and got your own dog, how did you go about choosing that dog?
Well, I got a dog from that was actually one of the ones that was in the program there in the Puppies for Parole program. She wasn't a canines for camo dog, but she was in the Puppies for Parole. So I knew her, and she used to come visit when I had Hank and uh, the service dog Hank that I was training. My Sally and I were working with. She used to come visit. Her and Hank were pals, so I knew Cookie from inside. And then she has some fear and anxiety issues, so it's just one of those dogs that um, wasn't anybody really going to be interested in. So
Mhm.
when I seen her out there, the dog, I had to go down to visit Dogwood. And when I went down there and saw her, they let me foster her for a month or so, and then I just said I just want her, so I just made
Mhm.
her permanent. So
Well, I think it's really cool that you have a cookie because just one second here. Um, this is my cookie.
yeah.
Her name is Cookie as well, and we got her from the Humane Society, believe it or not. She's a full-blooded Boston,
Oh
but
yeah.
she's deaf, and she was a
Cookie.
stray, and she was pregnant, and we got her a few years ago. So I thought it was so cute when you just mentioned having a cookie because I also have one.
Yes. But
So clearly both of us, understand the value of having a dog in our lives and what they can bring in our life. And it sounds like that is exactly what you needed when you got back into society, is to get what you knew really well, a dog.
yeah, yeah. Been just that made the whole transition a lot easier for me.
I bet.
It's just the just having that emotional bond. When I have a rough day, and I've had some challenges since I've been out.
Mm.
A lot of blessings and more blessings than anything, but I've had those challenges, and it's just always nice. Matter of fact, one day I just came home from work. I had a stressful day, and I came home and I put her in the van, and we went to the river park. They got a brand new park below the Capitol building on right on the river, and we just went, and it was just that's what relaxed me was just walking with her along the river and being in that park. So,
I bet.
and it's just lets the stress go. So,
Yes. Yes, because they always are on your team for sure.
yes, yep. And
Well, you mentioned a second ago about how you went behind bars at age 16, and now you're 34 years older. And I can only assume that you are a very different person from when you went in and now that you are out. Can you talk about that a little bit, about what kind of person were you when you entered prison versus now?
When I first got incarcerated, I was coming from a childhood where I had a lot of adversity,
Mm,
more so in my own mind. I came from a broken home, which a lot of people do, and I wasn't able to process that. I had a lot of anger built up, um, and I just a lot of issues that stemmed from anger, not being able to process what was going on in my life, and I grew up angry and in trouble all the time, which caused more anger because I now was had a stepfather that was the best man that could be. Accepted me like he was my own father, and I was his own son. But I never gave him a chance. In my emotional anger, um, I never gave him a chance, and I did everything I could to let him know that he wasn't my dad, that I resented him, and that whole process, that whole cycle, just kept on spinning out of control and went deeper and deeper. Um, and I just coming to prison, it took years. Even coming to prison, I was still a very angry person. I was in trouble all the time, in and out of ADSEG. And it took a while for me to desire to change and just look at my emotions and look at myself and deal with those things. And it's hard. I took two people's lives, and it was on my part, it was senseless because it was I didn't know how to deal with what was going on. But at the same time, I had the opportunities to deal with it. I just didn't take them.
mm,
Not only did I have a loving family who not only showed me unconditional love on every aspect, but I had psychological people trying to help me, school teachers trying to help me, and I resented everybody. And it was I lived in a world of just anger, and it just spun out of control. And
mm-hmm,
I took two lives, and I just was so I was disconnected from it was all about me. I was in pain, and I didn't care what pain that I caused to other people. And it took a lot of soul searching, um, to be able to understand. A lot of it came from a class called Impact of Crime on Victims. And not only did I took the class, but then I started teaching the class. And as you teach things, you learn more and more.
yeah,
Um, it's just like with dogs. When you teach the dogs, you learn more about yourself and the dog and how to work with the dog, especially shelter dogs that have issues.
mm-hmm,
And then when we were able to have the opportunity to work with the dogs, that's where a lot of my change came in my thinking. And because now I begin to understand we're dealing with shelter dogs. We're dealing with dogs that have been abused at the hands of a person, which is similar to what I did to other people myself. Now I'm able to understand not only what the dog has been put through, but what I put somebody else through, and try to help them, the dog, rebuild their lives. I can't help my victims. I can't change my actions. I can't repair the lives that I've shattered, but I can get um, the understanding of not to do it again. You know what I'm saying? And just kind of look at it's when you work with these dogs, you have to take a look at yourself, and you do, you know.
mm-hmm.
So,
You know, I like that you are telling me this story, probably the hardest story that you ever tell anyone. And you're telling it and taking full responsibility for it. You're basically, saying that you had everything going great as a child, but you just couldn't see it.
yep.
I like that you're able to do that, and you're able to say, yeah, it was me. Nobody did anything wrong. It was me. That's a lot of growth, and I know it took, I'm sure, years to get to that point.
Well, and see, here's my outlook today is that we're going to be faced with situations, you know what I'm saying, and how you deal with that situation is it says more about yourself than anything. And I have no choice. The only thing that I can do is to honor my victims, is to be brutally honest, not only with everyone else but with myself. You know what I'm saying? Because otherwise, I'm victimizing them again. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I try to live. You know, I'm not a perfect person, but I try to live my life where I'm considering, how is this going to affect somebody else? You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be a source of pain to people anymore,
Yeah.
whether that's through maturity or what. I just value people now, whereas in the past it was about me, and now it's not only. I mean, it's about me as well, but I also don't want to infringe upon somebody else. You know, I don't want to meet my needs at the expense of somebody else, I guess is the best way to say it. I don't know if that's growing up or whatever that is, but I mean, that's where I'm at today, you know. And when you live a life like that, since I've been out, I've been truly blessed, you know. So when you're doing the right thing and you're being considerate of others, then people see that and see value in you or
Mm-hmm.
in me. You know what I'm
They
saying?
do.
And they people have went out of their way to help me, and I've really been blessed with people. And I believe that God has put those people on a path. You know, to Him, you know what I'm saying, is everything. But I
I'd like to
just,
hear more about that. How have people impacted your life now that you're out?
well, you know, I being incarcerated for so long, I didn't have a place to stay. I'm estranged from my family, so I really haven't had any family contact while I've been incarcerated. Still don't. So first and foremost is just people reaching out. You know, Canines for Camo really helped me out. They saw something in me and not only, you know, allowed me to work with their dogs on the inside, but
Mm-hmm.
also wanted to make sure that I had a possibility to work with them on the outside as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, we talked for a while, and we just being able to possibly move down to Springfield and work with the dogs. And that kind of didn't work out because, you know, of funding and things like that.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, Mr. John and Miss Joy, they went out of their way to try to help me on every level they could. And then this possibility opened up. Canines for Camo needed somebody to work in Jeff City area to be able to go into the prisons and get the dogs, not go into the prisons, but I go to the parking lot and get the dogs and work with them in public. So they're doing their task training on the inside. And then once a week, I go get a dog and we just take it in just different places. I went yesterday and got Fonzie out.
Mm-hmm.
And matter of fact, had a blast with him, went to the military museum. And so it's just my way of keep on giving back to the program that meant a lot to me and did everything they could to help me.
That's
Um,
great.
I got a I got a good job, and I have a boss and coworkers that are they know my story, they know where I'm from or where I came from, accepting of me, go out of their way to help me. Um, I went and just did a interview with Royal Canin
Mm-hmm.
about puppies for parole. So it's just doors are opening for me to be able to um, reach out and to give back. And that's to me is what it is to give back. And that's one of the main mission statements for Canine for Gamos. And that's what I like about it a lot is it's about serving those who served us, you
For
know, and to
sure.
give out. I have a, I've always had um, a desire to work for service dog training for our veterans, and it just means a lot to me to be able to do that.
I can tell by the hanging that you have on the wall behind you that some other people appreciated what you did while you were at JCCC. Tell me about that.
Well, I've had a lot of input into the Puppies for Parole program, and it's changed lives. It literally changes lives. In order to get into Puppies for Parole, you have to demonstrate change in your own life. You have to be on your best behavior. You have to take programs, and you have to take a look at yourself.
Mm.
and you have to be willing to do what it takes to even be considered for the dog program. And I helped a lot of people. Um, I did a lot of the veterinary stuff. I have a degree from a college for veterinary assisting, so I did a lot of the work for just a basic veterinary care for the dogs.
Hmm.
Um, I've been in it since it started, so I was able to, what knowledge that I've been able to get, I've been able to help others with my knowledge. I've had an excellent Selly who is really, actually, he's better at dog training than I am. But I mean, it's just when you work together for a common goal, people just are appreciative because we're able to fulfill what we want to do. We want to give back. We want to save dogs. We want to train dogs, but we want to put them in a family where they're an asset to the family, to where they can get the same emotions that we do. And the dogs get a second chance, and a family gets a good dog.
Yes.
Uh, our veterans now, when Mr. John brought Canines for Camo into JCCC, now they gave us the opportunity to give back to the veterans. We're saving the dog. We're feeling good about ourselves, but at the end of the day, a veteran gets the opportunity to have somebody that's going to help make their life better, their
Hmm.
quality of their life, and that's what they deserve. For so many, for so our veterans are a lot of times people forget them, but they've given everything, so we have obligation to help them in any way that we can, and that's what these dogs do.
Hmm. And you guys as well. And I see that on that you have a lot of signatures on that from, I guess, people that appreciated everything you did while you were there and had to grow both programs, really.
It is, and it's hard because it's hard for me to, because I grew up with a lot of these people,
Hmm.
and their family to me. I don't have a lot of friends because I like quality in my friends versus quantity. But you build relationships and they become family. They're not friends any longer, they're family. So I have to, it's hard going to that parking lot and picking up a dog and bringing the dog back, knowing that I'm leaving and I'm leaving my friends behind again. And
Hmm.
it's sometimes it's a struggle, but at the end of the day, I mean, they understand and I understand, and it's sometimes it's hard.
Hmm. I'm sure it is. Um, for those who maybe haven't listened to this podcast and understood really how you guys do what you do, explain a little bit about the process when a dog comes into the prison and how you guys maybe select which guy is going to train the dog, and then how it goes until that dog exits the prison trained.
Um, Puppies for parole, we kind of talked about the qualifications for that in order to get into that. It's a little bit more stringent when you're being considered for canines for camo because now you're actually task training a dog.
Mm-hmm.
Puppies for parole is about basic obedience and passing the CGC test. Now you're taking it a step further, um, and now you're doing task training, which is in the end going to help another person. So it's kind of it's a different outlook on how you do your training. Um, and you have to have, there's a different qualifications. You have to have some, uh, I don't remember exactly what it is, but you have to have worked with a certain amount of dogs in the Puppies for Parole program in order to be considered. And you have to demonstrate not only your willingness to learn from others and to be a part of a team, but that you have the ability to understand. Every dog is different. How I may teach a purebred dog that doesn't have any issues is going to be different than how I teach a dog that has a minor issues that I need to correct, whether
Mm-hmm.
it barks at somebody, but otherwise has the great potential to be a service dog. It has these little quirks that you have to work out as well. Um, the very first dog that we had in the JCCC Canines for Camo was Banks, and I was blessed to have been able to work with Banks. I know you're familiar with Banks.
Mm-hmm.
Banks didn't like to be in a crate. Matter of fact, he destroyed I believe Mr. John said he destroyed 4 crates at his house.
Uh-oh.
So that is one of the things that we had to work with on Banks in order for him to be able to progress. He's an excellent dog, had a perfect demeanor, but he didn't like being alone. And when he was, especially when he's confined, then it turned into a very bad situation
It
for him.
was bad for him. And just for anyone who doesn't know about Banks, I was working in television news at the time that Banks was discovered, and he is named that because he was literally tossed into a waterway and his paws were tied together. And he used his own strength to pull himself to the bank to save his own life. And so he's very special. I don't know enough about, dog psychology. Do you think, Joe, that that experience, what happened to him, played into some of the training that you utilized?
I think a lot of times too is the dog has to be able to um, adjust and socialize. And when a dog is pulled away from its mother at an early age, it doesn't get the training from the dog world from its mother. It doesn't get its socialize
Mm-hmm.
or from its siblings. So they lose a lot, and different behaviors develop from then, where he didn't want to be alone. Um, I don't know enough about dog psychology myself to understand whether a traumatizing situation is going to have whether they would be conscious of that or would tend to forget that situation or not. It took us several months just to be able to, and you have to do it in small increments. You have to. We put him in the kennel, and we would leave the cell first off with the door open, and then just within 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and just you have to in and out to let him know and get him to understand that, hey, I'm coming back. You're okay. I'm coming back. I'm not leaving you. I'm not abandoning you. And it could be part of the abandonment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I don't. One of the things that is one of the things that I really would like to learn more about is the actual understanding of kind of how a dog would think,
Mm-hmm.
the behavior, and the psychological um, aspect of it. I can deal with the training issues and identify the problems and then develop plans. And that's a lot of the things about what I like about our program and Puppies for Parole and Canines for Camo in there is we pool off of each other's knowledge. If I have issues, for example, if Cookie's chewing on the sofa, I say, hey, this is my issue. This is my problem. What do you think is going on? What do you think? Why do you think she's doing this? And we can come together as a team and try to figure out not only what is the cause, but also on how we could deal with it. And it's a trial and error thing. Each dog is different, especially dogs that have, like for canine for camos, those dogs come from shelters as well. They're getting a second chance at life. They're not purebred dogs that are given uh straight out of a breeding situation that there's no issues.
Yeah.
Every one of these dogs has issues that you have to work on. And that's why sometimes it takes a little bit longer. And again, some of the dogs that go enter the program won't make it
Mm-hmm.
uh, because we can overcome the issues. If you have a dog that likes to growl and bark at people, it can't go out into public. It might be the perfect dog for in the house,
Mm-hmm.
but as far as service dog standards, it can't go out in public because it's not allowed to bark and growl at people in public.
Yeah.
Uh,
You mentioned chewing up the couch. I mean, my gosh, since I've got you and somebody might need that help, what in the world would you do to get
I
your
would say
dog to
that
stop it?
the dog's not getting enough exercise.
Okay.
Caesar had 3 things. It was exercise, discipline, and affection. And even Mr. John used to tell us all the time, solve the walking and you solve all your problems. Get the dog to walk good, which entails giving that dog exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Walking is you have to just you have to walk with your dog, exercise your dog. It stimulates the mind. It gets them to be able to slow down and relax. The dog will walk at a faster pace than a human will. So in order for it to slow down and walk with a human, it has to slow its mind down, and it's about training it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it needs time for itself, and it has to be able to exercise. It has to have appropriate things to chew on.
Mm-hmm.
It just, you have to learn to, it's about, one of the things that I learned early on was it's not about me. It's about what's best for the dog and for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Especially in dealing with one of the things Marcelli and I really like to deal with dogs that had fear and anxiety issues. And then it's not about my pace, it's about the dog's pace. How, and you always want to push that threshold, but the dog will have to choose its own path in the way, however long it takes. I can't expect a dog in a week to be able to greet people and be able to be around people. It's about, as that dog feels more comfortable and learns that people aren't going to it develops a trust. You
Mm-hmm.
have to develop trust. And that's on the dog's outlook instead of not mine. It's not my standards for training.
Right. In a way, it sounds like that took you full circle because you talked earlier about how you had to understand that not everything was about you and not everything was to make you a happy person. And that the dogs are the kind of the same. You have to put that dog in front of you a little bit and what their needs are because training a dog, you have to have patience.
Yes.
It's a challenge in some cases. Some dogs train beautifully, but then there are others, and you're just ready to just pull your hair out. It's a lot of repetition. Maybe that's why it works
Yep.
well in the prison.
Well, it is, and we have a lot more time
Mm,
than the average person does
hmm
to work with the dogs. Now, I'll give you talking about a easy dog to work with was Hank. David and I had Hank as well, and that dog was so good natured, and he learned real quick. He was sharp as a tack, and he wanted to please, and he had the demeanor to be a service dog. So it was easier working with him because he didn't have a lot of issues. You know, he
Yeah.
did like to growl, and he had some. You could tell that in some way he had been abused. He had some trust issues that we had to work with on him.
hmm
And there was a point where there was we didn't know if he was going to make it as a service dog, even as well as his demeanor was. That he had some quirks that matter of fact, it was Miss Rebecca had to work on with him, and she did an excellent job. And he's out there with his veteran now. But it's just it's kind of sometimes it's kind of touch and go.
Yeah.
And that was Hank was my I love that dog. I really, really love that dog. And as a matter of fact, I made a deal with Mr. John that if he wasn't going to work out, that I wanted to adopt him because I really love that dog. And but at the end of the day, I'm super happy that he's out there doing what he's supposed to be doing with his veteran.
You
And it's
mentioned
just,
your celly, David. Was that by chance David Manwaring?
yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I
And
interviewed him.
David and I started in Puppies for Parole in 2010. Matter of fact, we were the first ones to get a dog at the Licking Correctional Center, South Central Correctional Center, when we
Hmm
first started Puppies for Parole, and we've been pretty much Sellies. And here's the thing: is you have to be able to develop a way to train. I have to do the same thing that he does, and he has to do the same thing that I do. Because if we're doing two different things, then the dog is confused. So that
hmm
was one of the things that David and I really had is we had a cohesion where we trained well together, and we talked, and that's the main thing that you have to have is communication. This is hey, this is not working for me. What am I doing wrong? Or this is working for me. Can we try this? And being that's and when you have that type of relationship and bond and training, then you progress and the dog progresses and at a faster pace too. So
Um,
I mean that's a must.
I think you just gave great advice to anybody that might listen to this that's in a couple situation. you said that the two of you, because you had the cell together, you had to be on the same page with the training. Same thing with a couple that might go get a new dog for the family. You can't
Yep.
have one person in the couple training one way and the other one reacting differently than that person, right?
Yep. And it goes even more to the couple. It has to be the whole family. Kids have to do the same thing as the parents, and both of the parents have to do the same thing. Um, if I don't want a dog begging at the table, and I correct the dog for begging at the table, and let's say my wife is feeding it underneath the table, then what's happening? We're not on the same page. And now I'm frustrated because now I have a dog that's begging every time I sit down at the table, it wants food. And that's just an analogy. It's kind of off the wall, but you have to be on the same page, and everybody in the family has to do the same thing
Hey, it makes
to
sense.
in order for it to succeed. Everybody has to work together. And
Yeah.
that was one of the things why I really liked Puppies for Parole and Canines for Camo is everybody worked together, and it just, especially for Canine for Camo, you have some really good talent in that program, and you have several dogs that are coming out of there. You have Dozer that came out of there with a really good handler.
Mhm.
Just Vu went to her veteran, and just a lot of dogs but it's about working together.
Hmm. I love that you mentioned these dogs because I actually have met some of them. So I feel like you're mentioning, someone I know because like Dozer, for example, Darren is the former police officer who has him.
Yeah.
And so it's great. It's great that it's all like I feel like we're all one big group and we're working to make, these dogs to have a successful life, to have people like you continue to have a successful life. Certainly our veterans, they're the ultimate goal that we want to be successful in. So we just have a few more minutes. So I want to make sure I touch on everything you would like to talk about. Um, Tell me something that you and I had talked on the phone, and you said one of the things that was so strange to you when you got out that was surprising was the scams that are out there. Anything else that has been either a wonderful thing in your life, and you mentioned people helping you, but something wonderful or just something surprising?
I think that and that's I think why I depend on Cookie so much is I don't have to worry about the scam. Um, I think a lot from coming from prison where you're constantly around people that are trying to get over on somebody else.
Mm,
Um, and then to come out here, it was kind of a shock to me to see that a lot of that goes on still. But then again, and you play the tape out, and with all those people that are locked up came from out here where they were doing the same thing. So it was just that's why I like my to be around the dogs so much is I don't have to worry
mhm.
about somebody what's the motive or anything like that.
The hidden agenda.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
for me, I'm going slow, uh and it's just uh I'm taking it slow. I like driving. I like being able to get in. If I want to go somewhere, then I'm going off on my own.
Mhm,
I've been blessed with a vehicle that was given to me as was another blessing.
mhm.
Um, I'm working towards. I have a goal. I want a Chevy Colorado, and that's my. So I just want. To me, driving is freedom, and it's just that's what I'm
It's working
working
well.
towards. So
Yeah.
I call it the puppy mobile. I got a little minivan now, and I love it. Don't get me wrong, I love it. But I always wanted a truck, and that's to what I'm working toward. That's my goal.
Hmm.
So,
So
um,
I'm gonna sum it up this way, and just I'm curious how you'll answer this question. There are people who might look at our program and think, okay, so it's good that there's, offenders who are training the dogs. They are excited about that. But you guys get a lot from it personally as well. And why is that important? Why should people in society, myself, others, why should we care that you, your friends in prison behind bars. Why is it important for the offender to also get something from this program?
Think that we get the probably the best thing is because we're able to give back.
Mm,
We're at a point in our life and it's not just me, but we're at a point in our life where we realize we've really harmed society. We and we can't, I talked about a minute ago, we can't change our past.
yeah,
But what we can do is we can give back. Instead of being that parasite of society, now I can be a person that just has meaning and is able to give back instead of to take. For my whole life, I've done nothing but take from other people. Whether it was emotional or financial or whatever I took. Even in my incarceration, took from you, took from our veterans, because they have to fund me being in prison.
yeah.
But through this program and in the dog program, I'm able to get uh, I get value, from being able to be productive. At the end of the day, uh, when I see photos on the website about um, the veterans that's lives are changed, I get value. I helped build something for somebody's life, improve the quality of somebody's life. And to me, that's priceless. You know what I'm saying? Not only that, but I get the opportunity to be a better person than I was yesterday, or the day before that.
Yeah.
So I get more out of these dogs probably than they get out of me.
Well,
Um,
it also turns you into the person that I'm talking to today, the person who is composed and confident and well-meaning and appreciative and full of gratitude. So I see the benefit for sure. And Joe, thank you for your time today. I saw a picture on your Facebook page of you with a bunch of dogs, and I want you to send me some of those pictures. Will you do that?
yep. That was, as a matter of fact, Miss Joy has it. It was
Okay.
the presentation for my Royal Canin interview.
I'd love to
So,
include that in this. So yeah, we'll talk about that and see how I can get that. And thank you
okay.
again for doing this. I know, yeah, it's not always easy to talk about your story, but you are so open. I find you to be a very open person, and it helps people to hear it.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, and I appreciate the opportunity just to give back, through Canines for Camo and to our veterans.
Right on.
Thank you.